The
Mhm.
complaint is, since we increased the diversity of the competitors, the quality of the pitches have gone down. He didn't say the time isn't enough or whatever. He said the quality, because of the diversity, the
Yes.
quality gone down. And I was like, and he said, point taken. All right, you were right. You were right. And he changed the time back. But the point being that instead of seeing that there was a structural reason that you
Yes.
weren't communicating well, they attributed to the fact of these women just aren't as good. I was talking to a leader of a major pitch competition, right? So big prize, big money tech startup pitch competition. And they had recently moved the time for the competitors to share their pitch from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. So I asked him, I said, how's that going? Because it feels kind of discriminatory. And he was like, oh my gosh, he rolled his eyes. Denise, is everything discrimination? Is everything race and gender? I said, calm down. I said, let me tell you what I mean. He's like, tell me how. How am I being discriminatory, Denise? I said, well, if you are doing a business that is around starching men's dress shirts, you don't have to explain that business. Every man, of course, the judges were men. Every man on that panel knows exactly what you're talking about. It's like, name that tune. You name that tune in 3 notes, right? What if so in the time allotted, I can spend my time telling you why my solution is good and why my team is the right team to do that solution. I've got enough time to do that. But what if the idea is eyelid tape for Asians? You don't even know what that product is. You don't know what the problem it solves is. You don't have any anchoring or history with that problem. So I need extra time to tell you what the problem even is.
So
Then
good.
I can
So
tell you what
good.
my solution is. Then I can tell you why my team is the right team. So I said that to him. Usually his face just went kind of white, like it just paled out. And he said, it's funny. The judges have been complaining, and I want you to hear what the complaint was. The complaint is, since we increased the diversity of the competitors, the quality of the pitches have gone down. He didn't say the time isn't enough or whatever. He said the quality, because of the diversity, the quality gone down. And I was like, and he said, point taken. All right, you were right. You were right. Then he changed the time back. But the point being that instead of seeing that there was a structural reason that you weren't communicating well, they attributed to the fact of these women just aren't as good. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel to bring us these people who just aren't as good a competitor, right? And so the challenge that we have is to see what are the echoes, what are the webs, the spider webs that are left over from a hangover, bad decisions. We have a complicated history in this country, and we've made a ton of progress, but we brought a few spider webs with us, a few echoes of old things that we don't need to bring with us. And sometimes it's not intentional. I don't believe for 1 second that change was to create intentional harm, but you have to have a mechanism, you have to have a process for looking at the structural challenges that stop great people, good people, from getting a chance to be great.
Excellent example. In fact, I'm going to be using that as an example. That's a great example. Because what needed to happen is, what you're saying is, in a lot of ways, where we are working together, we need to educate first. You have to educate first. So what you're saying, there would need to be time of educating first before you could actually really make a judgment on the case that they were bringing forth, right? Or of the new product. And I can take that example and I can apply it to so many different areas as well. There's the first layer is education. It's connecting, because overall we all want the same things for our family and for ourselves and for our businesses. But how we go about it is where we need to connect and educate one another.
And I would also add to that measurement, being careful about measurement, right? Like if you judge a fish by how well it flies, it's always going to fail, right?
It's
like
always fail.
Make sure that the metrics that you're using are real. Metrics of success are real indicators of capability. And so you me by how well you do X, right? Then I'm never going to be, I think there's a great proverb, as long as the hunter writes the story, the lion will never be the hero. idea of
Good. It's good.
exploring what are the criteria, what are the metrics that we're using to judge success, effectiveness, professionalism, all of these terms that we use, like what actually matters, and are we sure that we are using the right metrics to evaluate one another, and not use arbitrary metrics to exclude people from participation in experiences. And that's what we do. We exclude by metrics that don't even matter.
Absolutely. That's so good. You know, it reminds me of one of my husband's childhood friends. She's now a congresswoman from the state of Alabama. And she went to, help me out, Selma. She grew up in Selma, Alabama.
Yeah.
And she grew up in a predominantly all African-American high school. And she was just this little bright, gifted child that the school had to literally figure out how to educate, right? Her mother was in education, her father was in education. But she ended up going to Princeton for undergrad. And she always explains it this way. She says, they came hunting for me. They came looking for me because they knew I didn't have access, or even the resources or teachers around me didn't have access on even how to figure out for me to be able to enter Princeton. But because they gave me access, I was able to enter that school, then went on to Harvard, she went on to Oxford, and she has done some great things. She has very connected with some very key prominent folks that we all would know that she went to school with at Harvard Law School, who became president of the United States, and his wife, who was her mentor at Princeton. And I say all this to say that what you are giving, when you talked about the Asian product of raising the eyelids, you're giving that person access when you allow them to stop and educate you and connect with you. You know, and I'm going to even bring it back to, so anyone who listens to this, when you're talking about someone who grew up in New Jersey, a woman who grew up in New Jersey, for you to stop and understand why she may react to things differently than the woman who grew up in Orange County, California, you're giving that person access to the table, to a seat at the table, access to sit at the table, to be seen and to be heard and to be visible. And I think those are all great examples. When you're talking about a CEO that could be in a wheelchair, and it is possible, and it can happen, and it has happened, you're giving that person access to understand how they would need to connect. No, they're not. No, they're going to be like the fish. They're never going to fly. But what are they going to do? They're going to swim super, super well at deep levels and never run out of breath. But you got to give them access to be able to do that, and then also set them up for success once they're there. So anyway, just so much has gone through my head in your conversation, just in connecting all the dots, because this is a win-win for everyone to understand the connection of these dots that we're talking about.
And that's the key. I don't know that we talk about that part of this enough. Very often the DEI conversation is very limited to lifting up the marginalized. And I'm here.
Yes.
I love that. But
I love that too, but that is not the scope of it.
It is so much bigger than that.
So much larger.
All win. We all win. Everybody gets to do their thing. If you believe that every single person is imbued with certain gifts and certain capabilities, I think of the people we would not have had. We just would never have gotten to be exposed to them if barriers had not been removed, right?
Yes.
Excellence, unbelievable excellence. And I think we all benefit, and we need to talk about it that way.
Yes.
DEI is not charity.
No.
Charity. It's selfish, if anything else. It's selfish. It's getting the best, like an amalgam of all these different perspectives so that you get the best possible product. And isn't that what we want?
That's what we want.
So this idea, like, if I had a magic wand that I can change, it could change anything. That's why my book is called Indivisible, because I wanted to reestablish what's the goal here. Target is to be unbreakable. If you can be indivisible, you can be indestructible. I really believe that, right? So that's the challenge. It's not how can I get this group over that group or get that.
No, that's not what,
is how do we create spaces where if there is a human gift, a genius, a capability, that gift has a chance to shine. That's my goal. That's how I see it. And those gifts roll up for the benefit of society as a whole.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And the more we can help others understand that, and so it's not the term is not a threat, but actually it's a win. It's a benefit for everyone. Everyone. And it represents everyone. What you're saying, it's a representation. It represents all people. Those inclusion represents everyone.
Right. I am not interested in a permanent underclass. And I can't imagine anybody else being committed to having a permanent underclass that you don't allow, social mobility. You don't allow them to share. Like who does that benefit? Who wins from that? Like, right. A place. We want to live in a country where if you got something to give, we are here and we are ready to receive it. And we're going to gifts. And so to me, it's like that framing of possibility is what I want us to embrace when we talk about DEI.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about the experience I've had. My son has gone to a school that is, to me, highly diverse for this reason. And it has really worked hard, even so much as they have an organization that trains the boys on inclusion, right? And it's a diverse school from this standpoint, Denise. You have so many different cultures, so much. It's almost like a global. It's a global look at the world when you go to his school, right? And it's forced me, even as a parent who has not always been around different cultures from different countries, understanding the difference of different Asian countries, India, whatever it is, right? It has even forced me as a parent to be educated over the past 12 years. Come to the table, educate yourself. And even there's been greater connections because of that.